20 years. 20 years today that Pokemon has enchanted the lives of children and adults the world over. I guess you could actually say that it's score one for Pokemon. But seriously, today is a day to celebrate because Pokemon played such a huge part in my childhood and... okay, let's be honest, still a pretty big part of my life today. I've already made a video on my personal experiences with this franchise, so if you're interested, you can just go ahead and watch that. But today's not about me. Today is about Pokemon and just how it's managed to stay relevant for all this time. Every single generation of Pokemon so far has managed to take the Pokemon formula and refine it into something better. Gen 2 helped fill out the balancing issues, Gen 3 gave us double battles, Gen 4 gave us the physical special split and online functionality, and Gen 5 gave us an increased focus on story and a much more refined online service. Finally, when Gen 6 came around, I think most of us thought that Pokemon had run its course, that there really wasn't anything more other than maybe some new fighters that could really change how we played this game. And then we got Mega Evolutions. Well, we also got the Fairy type, which I really couldn't care less about, but these little buggers are something beautiful. All of a sudden, Pokemon that were once previously useless are now leaping up in the tiers, and Pokemon that were already great are getting other potential uses. Sure, some of them may be a big old heap of fan service, but they've also created a metagame of their own. Since you're only allowed to Mega Evolve one Pokemon per battle, there's now a whole new layer of strategy in both utilizing your own Mega to the fullest effect, while also getting rid of your opponents. So, last March, I asked my viewers to vote on their favorite Mega Evolutions. And yes, I do realize that it's taken me a horrendously long time to get around to finally finishing this, but hey, for Pokemon's 20th anniversary, now's a better time than any.
Not even finished with the first segment yet, and already we have a tie in the votes. So since I'm an indecisive little whiny man, let's just go ahead and talk about both Lopunny and Beedrill. Lopunny was originally one of those Pokemon that not a lot of people paid much thought. I mean, it was just a happy bunny normal type in a generation full of crazy new designs and upgrades to old favorites. I personally always liked it, but I understand I was in the minority that actually used it consistently. But then Gen 6 comes around and says, you know what? We're gonna make you known! Mega Lopunny received major buffs in its attack and speed stats, even making it the fastest normal type in the roster. It also gains the fighting type, opening it up to plenty more options with type advantages, and the Scrappy ability, which negates the ghost type's immunity to both of Mega Lopunny's stab types. In fact, due to this, Mega Lopunny has at least neutral coverage of the entire roster, with either return or high jump kick, jumping Lopunny all the way up from NU to OU tier. In terms of design, the precious fur on its ears thins out into what resembles hair ties, it gains a black pattern on its legs, its posture changes to be more upright and exude more confidence, and its large ears can now rival Diggersby, being able to crumple metal plates. This is arguably one of the biggest overhauls of a Pokemon granted by a Mega Evolution, transforming from a shy, feminine-looking normal type mostly reserved for support roles to an aggressive beast of a fighting type so powerful even ghosts can't handle it. So awesome! Beedrill is actually a pretty similar story. Once upon a time, it was the most powerful bug type in the game, thanks to it being one of only 2 Pokemon, and the only bug type that could learn Pin Missile back in Gen 1. However, as bug types got more attention in Gen 2 and beyond, Beedrill slowly fell out of favor. So when a Megaform came around, it needed and got some major upgrades. Mega Beedrill's attack and speed both skyrocketed, which was compensated by a drop in special attack. Although, honestly, nobody's gonna be missing that. It also gains adaptability, an ability which increases the power of its bug and poison type moves even more so. Now, it's come up from the NU tier and into UU and OU, tearing up the field with U-turn and poison jab, among other options. After Mega Evolving, Beedrill gains even more stingers, reduces the size of its wings, and takes on a generally more aerodynamic shape, less resembling an actual insect and more like a cyborg. I think I saw a few of them going after Sonic once. But I can't be too harsh. Otherwise it'll come for me in the night. The stinger on its thorax secretes a more potent and slow-acting poison than the rest of its limbs, allowing it to finish off its foes slowly and painfully. The pain would have a field day in Kanto, and I'm having a field day with pointless references. Lopunny and Beedrill. They're certainly quite a pair. Well, what else do you want me to say? It's Lopunny and Beedrill. That's like asking me to find a connection between Falco and Yoshi other than they're in Smash Brothers. It ain't gonna happen. Stop pressuring me! I'm gonna be honest, I expected that this would make the list without a doubt, though I expected it to take a much higher spot than number 9. That's what I get for trying to peg my audience. Anyway, Mega Charizard X. Arguably the most popular and well-known Pokemon of all time, aside from probably Pikachu, it's no surprise that this beast would get its own Mega Evolution. In fact, it's so popular that Game Freak went ahead and gave it 2. Both of them have their advantages and disadvantages, but with Form X getting over twice as many votes as Form Y, the verdict is pretty clear. Mega Charizard X gains buffs in its attack, special attack, and defense, as well as the ability Tough Claws, which boosts the power of contact moves. Also, it replaces its secondary flying type for Dragon, giving it a very menacing typing that's difficult to counter and easy to make the most of. Mega Charizard X is very comfortable sweeping, with moves like Flare Blitz and Dragon Claw to cut clean through unprepared teams. It can boost its stats with either Dragon Dance or Swords Dance, and even has reliable recovery with Roost. Design-wise, Charizard's wingspan lengthens to better support its body, its flames become blue, and its skin turns a menacing black, taking a few hints from normal Charizard's shiny form. It's about as wicked a recolor as you can get, and even though Form Y looks a bit more like an anatomically upgraded Charizard, Form X undoubtedly has the slicker and more eye-catching design. One could make an argument that Mega Charizard Y is a bit more useful in battle thanks to the ability Drought, but between appearances in Pokemon Origins, the Mega Evolution Specials, Smash Brothers, and now Pokken Tournament, it's pretty clear that this is the Charizard everyone wanted to see. And now for the second of 2 ties in this countdown. I know, I was kinda surprised myself. Almost never before have I had a tie situation on one of these poll lists, and now here comes along one with 2 of the things. So anyway, just know that number 8 and number 7 got the same number of votes in the poll, and I merely put one in front of the other for the sake of simplicity. With that said, let's talk about Gardevoir. Back in Gen 3, it was one of the most useful psychic types Hoenn had to offer. That, coupled with its elegant appearance and waifu capability, led it to become a fan favorite. Competitively, however, Gardevoir fell deep into the NU tier thanks to its pretty poor defenses and only moderate speed. However, add in a little Mega Evolution, and suddenly it's a massive threat. In addition to adding a secondary type of Fairy, Mega Gardevoir managed to take a fan favorite and make it much more competitively viable, bringing it up to OU. In Mega form, Gardevoir gains buffs to its special attack, special defense, speed, and, rather strangely, attack. It also gains the ability Pixelate, which converts any attacking normal-type moves into Fairy-type, and also boosts their power a small amount. Now, a move like Hyper Voice, previously useless on Gardevoir, suddenly has some massive power behind it, along with Psyshock, Focus Blast, and any number of support moves. Its appearance also changes to reflect this, fully embracing its resemblance to a ballroom dancer. Also, those red things sticking out of its chest that everyone made fun of? That's actually Gardevoir's heart. And since it's exposed, its psychic power gets even more magnified. Elegant, graceful, and powerful. No wonder Diantha likes it so much. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like Mega Mawile was one of those things that nobody asked for. After all, it was a pretty obscure steel type back in Hoenn, the same generation that brought us fan favorites like Metagross, Jirachi, and Aggron. Not only that, but it was built for offense in a primarily defensive type, making it difficult to fit onto teams even in NU. However, give it a little steroid boost and an extra type to work with, and you have the single biggest viability jump out of any Mega. Mega Mawile receives decent boosts to its defense stats and only a small attack buff. At least, speaking purely in terms of stats. Mega Mawile becomes a massive threat when you throw its new ability Huge Power into the mix, which doubles its physical attack. Keep in mind that the only other Pokemon who can use Huge Power are Azumarill and Diggersby, and they both have a base attack of around 50. Mega Mawile gets this boost at a base 105, effectively giving it the highest attack stat in the game. Because of this, Mawile managed to jump all the way up from NU and into Ubers, tearing apart even the big boys with moves like Play Rough, Iron Head, and Sucker Punch. This huge attack jump is even reflected in its new design, as it gains a little height and weight, as well as a twin rear-facing jaw. I know they say 2 heads are better than 1, but this seems just a tad extreme.
To answer your question, yes, I do indeed like mudkips.
And apparently so do a lot of you guys, since Swampert came in with enough votes to claim number 6 on this list. Now, Swampert was already a pretty dang good Pokemon. Its typing of water-ground meant that it was only weak to one type, grass, and it had good enough attack and defense stats that you could run it both as an offensive Pokemon with defense to back it up, or as a defensive tank with enough power to throw a punch every now and again. It did get slightly pushed out of power in Gen 5, but it was still quite viable. So in this case, Swampert's Mega Evolution is just another way to use the Pokemon, and it's not necessarily required to be viable like it is for something like Mawile. But that doesn't make it any less awesome. Mega Swampert receives a big buff to its attack stat, and smaller ones to its defenses, speed, and special attack. As such, Mega Swampert is a bit more built for attacking, and its new ability Swift Swim, which doubles its speed in the rain, makes it work brilliantly as a sweeper on rain teams, or even just on its own. Mega Swampert is often tricked out with moves like Waterfall and Earthquake, as well as Ice Punch and Power Up Punch for coverage. It can also learn Rain Dance if it needs to set up the rain itself, and Stealth Rock, which is almost always a good choice. Design-wise, this Mudfish doesn't really change that much, aside from taking a few extra classes at the local gym. Now, Sergeant Beefcake can use its new and improved muscles, as well as air pressure from the organs on its back to increase the power of its punches even while underwater. So, yes, in all fairness, Mega Swampert is not as much of an upgrade as some other Megas on this list. It's more like a sidestep than anything. But in all honesty, it's Swampert cross Big Massif action. What's not to love?
It's tenderizing time. Let's beef.
Remember all that backstory I just gave about Swampert and its Mega? You could basically copy-paste that same story to Blastoise and no one could tell the difference. I mean, as a water type with above-average stats, Blastoise was already a pretty popular Pokemon, chilling out around the UU tier for the last couple of generations. And although a bit more invested in its defense stats, Blastoise could still easily hold its own as an attacking force while also providing support as probably the most reliable Rapid Spin user in the game. So it's not really one of those Pokemon that needed a Mega, other than the fact that it was a Kanto starter. So now Mega Blastoise serves as just an alternate method of using an old favorite. But to be fair, it's a pretty dang good one. Mega Blastoise receives buffs in both of its defense stats and its attack stats, but although it could go either physical or special in its normal state, now it is clearly built for special attack. It also gains access to the ability Mega Launcher, which for Blastoise grants a 1.5 times power bonus to the moves Water Pulse, Dragon Pulse, Dark Pulse, and Aura Sphere. Mega Blastoise's movesets often feature either Hydro Pump or Scald, along with Dark Pulse, Aura Sphere, and either Dragon Pulse for more power or Ice Beam for more type coverage, and sometimes even Rapid Spin to clear out those pesky Stealth Rocks. Blastoise's appearance actually changes very little aside from the third water cannon it gains, which can reportedly fire at targets up to 6 miles away. Mega Blastoise's beefed up special attack and solid defenses make it a very reliable partner in competitive play. It may not be very quick on its feet, but like a tank, it can absorb damage from strong foes and then strike back with just as much power, making it great for shutting down big offensive threats. For example, I remember once I was on Smogon playing some Anything Goes matches when some guy thought it might be funny to show up with a team of 6 Rayquaza. Rather than give him the satisfaction of quitting right then and there, I played the match anyway. He led off with one Rayquaza, who just so happened to also be his Mega. Turn 1, I U-turn into my Blastoise, and he uses Dragon Dance. Turn 2, his Mega Rayquaza uses Dragon Ascent, Blastoise tanks the thing, and then strikes back to finish it off with a Dragon Pulse. And then that guy forfeited! I think you better call Jamie Oliver, because turtle soup I ain't. But even if I did manage to finish off a Mega Rayquaza pretty spectacularly that one time, that's still just one time. And what happens most of the other times?
Boom! Headshot! Boom! Headshot! Boom! Headshot!
Yeah, that seems about right. I mean, Mother of Arceus, Mega Rayquaza is insane. Like, so insane that Smogon made a whole new tier for it insane. Rayquaza was already a beast before Gen 6 came around. It was rightfully in the Uber tier, and one of the most devastating attacking forces in that tier to boot. But then they got to making Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, and Game Freak thought, you know what? Let's make this already powerful Pokemon just a bit more broken, and then make sure everybody can get their hands on one. Mega Rayquaza receives buffs to every stat besides HP, meaning that it can still be used in all its previous team roles, but just do them better. I mean, with twin base 180 attack stats, Rayquaza's not about to be in any support roles. Rayquaza can wreck shop with moves like Draco Meteor, Dragon Ascent, Earthquake, V-Create, Fire Blast, and Extreme Speed. And with those stats, very little will be able to take them. What's that? Not broken enough for you? Well, let's also give it access to setup moves like Dragon Dance and Swords Dance. Now even less things can take a hit from it. Still not broken enough for you? How about we give it a brand new ability that removes the negative type advantages of its flying type? For those counting at home, that means an extra resistance to electric, no weakness to rock, and a halved weakness to ice with 0 drawbacks. That's still somehow not broken enough for you? Oh, you're gonna love this one. Let's completely disregard petty concerns like human decency and make Rayquaza the only Mega Evolving Pokemon that can still use a held item. Yeah, that's right. Apparently, the entire function and balancing mechanic of the Mega Stone can be bypassed by just eating the thing. So now, Rayquaza can Mega Evolve and use an item like a Life Orb or Choice Band, yet again with no drawbacks. Even if you don't subscribe to Smogon's tier system, it'd be pretty difficult to deny that Mega Rayquaza is now the most powerful Pokemon in the roster. And sure, there's a bunch of cool lore and stuff surrounding Rayquaza and the discovery of its Mega form, but if you haven't played the Delta episode yet, that's kind of your own fault. However, the question becomes this: what do you need to do to beat the best? Well, among other things, it helps to be the first Mega Evolution that most players ever used. Of course, many people knew about the whole Mega thing well in advance of X and Y's release, but as people started playing through the actual game, they couldn't actually do the process for a good third of the adventure. They'd probably caught more than a couple of capable Pokemon, and even collected a Mega Stone or two. However, only after defeating Gym Leader Karina and confronting her at the Tower of Mastery could the secret be unlocked, starting with Mega Lucario. Now, Lucario was already one of the most popular Pokemon of its generation. I mean, it was in Smash Bros. And Pokken Tournament for starters, and it starred in one of the anime movies, so giving it a bit more attention wasn't totally uncalled for. However, Lucario was already pretty competitively viable as it was, so Mega Lucario exists to bring an already good Pokemon and bring it to do battle with gods. Mega Lucario shoots straight up into the Uber tier, thanks to its strong typing and move pool. After evolving, it receives buffs to its attack, special attack, defense, and speed. It also takes a note out of Mega Beedrill's book and makes use of adaptability, to make its fighting and steel-type moves even stronger. Mega Lucario is often tricked out with moves like Close Combat and Iron Tail for the most possible damage output. It also likes to use Bullet Punch for a good priority move, and Swords Dance when it gets the opportunity to set up on something. Not only that, but Lucario wasn't just the first Mega you could use in-game. According to the lore, it's very possible that it was the first Mega Evolution ever discovered. And since Mega Evolution is only possible due to the strength of the bond between trainer and Pokemon, and seeing how Lucario already has a leg up on understanding humans thanks to its aura abilities, it's not that difficult to believe. What a heck of a way to start, though. Oh, Gallade. Gallade, Gallade, Gallade. You just can't let your partner in evolution catch a break, can ya? Gen 3, Gardevoir hits the scene, a lot of people like her, some even like her a little too much. Then Gen 4 happens, you show up, Suddenly, you're getting all the attention. Then X and Y are released. Gardevoir gets this cool new form that's so good even the final boss uses one. Look, she even got dressed up for the occasion. Suddenly, everyone loves Gardevoir again. But this time, you don't even wait until the next generation. You just barge in Oras and say, "Get out the way, I ain't gonna let you steal my spotlight." Mega Gallade, besides being an upstaging big brother, is truly a worthy new form for this beast. Much like his skirted counterpart, Gallade used to not be very popular in competitive play. In Gen 4 he was pretty good, but then he got banished to the dreaded NU tier for Gen 5. But now, his new Mega form has skyrocketed Gallade's viability. Thanks to some much needed boosts in his attack and speed, as well as a little defense on the side, Gallade is now much more comfortable in a sweeping role. It gains the ability Inner Focus, which prevents flinching. Not the best ability at first glance, but when you realize that Gallade can now go up against paraflinchers and fake-out users with no issue, suddenly there's an extra layer of strategy you can use against opponents like Mega Lopunny, Mega Kangaskhan, Weavile, and Jirachi. Gallade is often outfitted with moves like Zen Headbutt, Drain Punch or Close Combat, and a variety of coverage moves like Ice Punch, Knockoff, and Leaf Blade. However, Gallade also has access to some pretty sweet support moves like Swords Dance, Substitute, Skill Swap, Will-O-Wisp, and even Destiny Bond if the mood strikes you. Get creative! This is one Pokemon that definitely encourages it. Design-wise, Gallade takes on the appearance of a knight or even a gladiator, with new design elements that resemble a cape, a helmet, and dual blades rather than the blunt tonfa he used to wield. The original design honestly do much for me, as Gallade's original proportions just looked a bit odd to me. But this new design? Oh yeah. So now we come to the ultimate question. What exactly do you have to do to be the best Mega Evolution? It's not just about being the strongest, otherwise Rayquaza and Mewtwo would have jumped to the top. It's not just about making a certain Pokemon better at what they already do, otherwise choices like Blaziken and Swampert would have been much higher. In the end, the feeling I got from all the votes I received was that the Megas that got the most votes were the ones that made the biggest comebacks. With some exceptions here and there,
Boom! Headshot!
Taking a relatively popular but statistically weak Pokemon and making it competitively viable again seemed to bring in the biggest haul. And honestly, there may not be a better poster boy for comebacks than with Mega Sceptile.
As I was setting up this vote all those months ago, I honestly had no clue which Pokemon was going to come out on top. That's kind of why I made this a poll list in the first place. I was just curious what you all thought. But as I started to see Sceptile come up over and over in the votes, it started to make a lot more sense.
After all, grass types are inherently some of the most dynamic Pokemon you can have on the field. Depending on the state of the battle and your opponent's team, they can either be the hero of the hour or effectively useless. This does make them quite fun, but not necessarily reliable. At first glance, Mega Sceptile is no exception to this. Sure, it gets a nice big boost to its special attack and speed, along with a couple other stats, but the new Dragon type actually gives Sceptile an extra weakness, meaning that potentially even more Pokemon can take it out without trouble. Plus, its new ability Lightning Rod doesn't have quite the same massive effect as something like Huge Power or Pixelate, but when you take a step back from Sceptile and look at the bigger picture, you'll see it for what it truly is. Possibly the best counter player in the metagame. You see, despite that huge special attack stat, the highest of any grass type by the way, Sceptile isn't meant to take the offensive straight away. Instead, it stays in the back, waiting for its chance to shine. And trust me, if you're playing at a high competitive level, that time will come. Because Mega Sceptile is a brilliant counter to tons of the most common and powerful threats in the OU tier. Rotom Wash, Heatran, Tyranitar, Mega Lopunny, Rhyperior, Thundurus, Mega Manectric, Azumarill, Keldeo, Latios, Mega Slowbro, Clefable, Magnezone, Ferrothorn, all these incredibly common choices, either walled, forced to switch, or one-hit KO'd by this one amazing Pokemon. Suit one up with moves like Leaf Storm, Dragon Pulse, and Giga Drain for raw stab power. Add in a little variety with Focus Blast, Earthquake, Iron Tail, and Hidden Power Fire to help your team better deal with certain foes. give it Substitute to aid its defenses, or even Swords Dance to go with an entirely physical set. Its speed means that it can outrun most of the tier, including every other dragon type in it, and its high special attack makes it great for sweeping and revenge killing. Use it in singles, use it in doubles. Sceptile will never have to file for unemployment because it'll always have work to do. This has been the Phoenix King, and thank you for watching this video, the final countdown of Pokémon 2. I look forward to seeing you in the next video, and in the meantime, take care of yourselves.
Vines swinging off through Cormaline, Lumios's flashing lights, grounded Clement's electric types. Oh, fricks up by my snow, whole team left me feeling cold. TM13 from me to hold, this journey's the one thing I know. And I feel strong in this fight, mega evolving. And I love watching these lights with you here beside me. Can't get enough, get enough, get enough. Things that fail to kill me make me level up. You know I've been losing sleep, dreaming of Carlos